All right, final phone call of the day. Calling from a 919 area code. That is all the time we have for calls today, assuming that this call is good. 919.
Is this me?
Yes, it's you. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from India. I'm Yash.
Anesh?
Yes. So I was watching a conversation you had with an MRA. Right? Can I talk about that?
Who? MRA? Men's rights activist. Okay.
Yeah. So I saw the conversation you had with him, and I think he was right. Don't men have to sign up? Don't they have to sign up for a draft or something in the U.S.?
We don't have a draft.
I think men.
We have to register.
Yes,
we have to register.
Yes. So don't men have less rights than women then?
In terms of like having to serve in the military?
No, to potentially be drafted into war. So in terms of that.
Yeah, I guess you could make the argument that men are, because they're subject to a draft, which we don't have, but have to register, that you could argue that yes, they have less rights in that respect. But I wouldn't say it across the board. I don't think the net is still there. You know what? Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea? I just found this out. I was amazed by it. I don't even know if you know this. Do you know in this country when it became, we have the National Institute of Health. That is our big research facility in this country. Do you know when women were included in clinical research for medicine in this country via the NIH? When do you think?
I think I think the reason they did not include women in clinical research was because I think they thought clinical research might risk a woman's life, and the same reason they do not draft women is the same reason they do not risk the life
that
of
wasn't
a woman
it.
in a clinical research.
No, that wasn't it. They thought that I think part of the reason was that they thought menstruation would somehow mess up their research. But when do you think we started to include women in clinical research? You understand the implications of that, right? Because there are biological differences if you have a uterus versus not. There's different sort of like hormones associated with there's some different aspects of biology, which I think we all agree with in terms of like females and males. When do you think?
I get it. I mean, even if that's correct.
I haven't said the time. I'm asking you.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Take a guess, though.
The 2000s. I mean, if you're speaking it like this.
Oh, so you get a sense that I'm. It was 1993. Huh. It is the 30-year anniversary of when we decided that we want to include females and probably women in clinical studies.
Caller, you're aware of what happened recently with the right to an abortion being overturned, right?
Yes.
You're also aware of the pay disparity between men and women making around 80 cents on the dollar that men make.
I think it's 82 cents
82 now.
Yeah, because there's an earnings gap, I think, and don't women work less time and do less demanding jobs, or don't they pick different jobs?
No, same job. They'll 82 cents on the dollar for men, and so say they have the exact same job, men on average for the exact same job make $1 to women's 82 cents. Plus what I just said about women's reproductive rights being taken away within the past year.
I mean, this was a big topic of conversation like 5 or 6 years ago, and I think the answer to that question was that women work different jobs. They
No, that's not what. But listen to what I'm saying though. Same job, 82 cents to the dollar.
I assume that would be illegal. Is that not illegal? Like,
Well, but regardless, there are supposed to be anti-discrimination parameters, but that is the factual reality of what's happening in the United States. Plus, as I just mentioned, women's reproductive rights, their right to choose, were taken away by the Supreme Court. So half the women in this country, roughly, in reality now, have fewer rights over their reproductive care, as opposed to, in theory, men signing up for a draft, which we've essentially done away with, and statutorily we're not having a draft. So that's kind of a hypothetical. Men have less rights. In reality, I just listed 2 examples where women have fewer rights in our current literal society. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, if you think abortion is an issue, then you cannot say women have less rights. I mean, men cannot have an abortion, so it's not like they are having less rights or something. It's not any double standard.
Well, what medical procedure are men inhibited from pursuing?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, because I don't think there is one.
Yeah, but but in abortion, men cannot have an abortion, so a woman cannot get one either. It's not a double standard. It may be an issue, but it's not a sexist issue. And I mean, I don't think abortion is.
It's not an issue for you?
It's not the only. No, I'm not saying it's not an issue. I'm saying, I mean, it's not an issue all across the U.S. It's only a crime. It's only illegal in some states, I think.
Right, I know, but that's what I said.
That actually sort of proves the point more, doesn't it? That we have states in this country where what is a fundamental right in one state isn't in another.
So half of women, though, roughly, this is what I said, though, caller, half of women have had that right taken away from them. That's a fact, though, that you're conceding, as opposed to the theoretical one about a draft happening.
Well, I mean, okay, whether or not it's an issue, well, first of all, some people think abortion is murder. And so it's not just
some people think it's your
issue.
patriotic duty to go to war.
Yeah, and they're wrong. And I mean, even if you're going to call abortion
right, they're
murder,
wrong.
That's
I think we're on to something here.
Okay, abortion, yeah, I mean, sure, I mean, if you're gonna go this hard on it, then yeah, I mean,
I do want to go hard on abortion.
Do you think that there's any vestige
sure.
of like, do you think there's any vestige of like a past discrimination, or when that discrimination ends, everything is just all copacetic?
I mean, okay, I get you. Abortion, you know, if you're gonna speak like this, yes, it's an issue, but previously, I don't think you were taking.
I am in favor of saying that. I am in favor of saying that not only should you not be drafted into a war, that maybe we shouldn't even allow anybody to sign up for the military. I mean, if you want to talk about that, I mean, as an issue, but if your argument is that net, because men have to register for a draft that has not taken place in 50 years in this country, I still contend that yes,
it potentially can anytime.
It potentially could, and it is an infringement. I will concede that. But if you are, we now know that there's also potential for any gains that women have made in the past 50 years can be rolled back too, right? I mean, we just watched that. The Supreme Court just did that. There could be a whole host of other things, like maybe we won't do any research on female biology. The government won't fund that anymore because we decided that, like, you know, some things that a female may be more prone to than a male, not so important when we are organizing what we're going to research in society. Or this whole thing where, you know, the women are running around willy-nilly using credit cards in their names. I don't know. If we were to roll back that to just like 40 years ago, maybe we'd get rid of that thing. Or chattel. I mean, all these things could be rolled back too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on abortion, but I mean, if you said you want to talk about the net, like the net game.
Right. Okay. So what do you think is
the draft
more?
is not the only.
What do you think is more inhibiting to your freedom? The inability to have control over your reproductive system, or signing up for registering so that the government knows where you are for a draft which has not taken place in 50 years?
Well, what if I told you the draft is not the only issue in the U.S.?
Well,
Against
I
men.
would say,
more.
why did it take you 11 and a half minutes to bring it up?
Can you just give us a few more examples?
Yeah, so you know about the sentencing disparity between blacks and white in the U.S., right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's less than the disparity between men and women. So, and by a huge margin. So if you commit a crime, you are better off as a black woman than a white man. That's how bad the disparity is.
For the same crime.
So, yes, for the same crime, accounting for the same criminal history. And so the point I'm making here is that sexism against men in this regard is worse than racism against black people. And I don't see you people talking about this in the same spirit as you talk about racism. I just don't see you
Discrimination against men. You want us to kind of put that in the same context.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see you take this very severely. You don't talk about this as you don't give this the severity it deserves.
Well, discrimination, I mean, and to the extent that there's that type of disparity, and I check on it, but let's just assume that you're correct on it. All right, let's just stipulate that you're correct about.
You can look up.
Okay.
You can look up the United States.
Okay, listen. I've just said that, like, I'm going to stipulate that. Do you understand the difference in terms of like a power dynamic? And if we're going to be talking about, you know, cohorts of people, you understand, like, in terms of like the power in society. And in our society,
What about it?
well, let's talk about wealth disparity.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk about political
Yeah.
power disparity. Let's talk about disparity in terms of like CEOs, like all the markers in our modern society, probably also our older societies. Is there a situation where women have more power than men?
It's not an issue. I mean, if
No. I've just
successful,
asked you a question. You could say
men
the
have
answer
more
is,
power,
of
yeah.
course, no. And then you could say, but power's not really relevant to the context, to the discussion of discrimination. And I would say to you, that's not correct, because people discriminate all the time, right? The issue isn't that I'm a discriminating person or this is discriminating. The issue is that with the power structure that exists, are there people within society who are necessarily, because they're out of power, do they have a diminished ability to gain power in our society? That's what it's really about. Now, if you want to say that there is a commensurate, like, sort of like problem of power between the wealthy and the non-wealthy in this country. And we should talk about that. My answer to you would be, you're right, and we do. Are there instances where men are discriminated against in a way that women are not? I'm sure you've at least listed at least one. But the implications of that, because of the power disparity in our society, are different. Children are discriminated against in certain ways, right? Like, we don't let people drive a car until they're 16 in many places. Some places it's like 17.
Can't vote.
They can't vote until they're 18.
The power disparity between men and women is not like the power disparity the power difference between an adult and a child. I mean, can you be concise? I mean, can you be a little concise?
Okay, yes, it's about power. Women don't have nearly the power that men have in our society. And that's why the discrimination is that much more problematic.
So do you think that women have more power than men in society? Is that your argument?
I mean, you were talking about how there are more male CEOs and more men are wealthy. I don't see how that's more power.
What constitutes power in American society?
The people who happen to be men. I would say men have power.
Don't just give me. You want me to be concise? I'll be concise. What constitutes power in our society? What do you need to have power in our society? What is a manifestation of power in our society?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well,
you don't know? You don't know what constitutes power in our society? Seriously?
I know.
Okay. Money and essentially the levers that money tries to impact in our society. That's what creates power. Those are the two, let's put that institutionally. And I mean, you can have social movements that would have power, but they're just trying to wrest power from where the power exists in our society. Who has the money? Who has the lever of power? Who has the money in our society? Who has access to levers of power?
It's not the men.
It's not the men. The men don't have the money in our society.
Yeah, just let me finish. You're answering to an incomplete sentence. You're not answering my argument. Men, it's not men who have power because they're rich. It's not the men who are the richest people in the US. The people who happen to be men are rich. It's not men.
You think it's just a coincidence? Is that what you're saying? It's just a coincidence.
Or that they've.
It's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. It's a total coincidence that the massive wealth disparity between men and women in our society, it's just a total coincidence. It just so happens that that's the case, right? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe there's something.
I want you to. I'll tell you what. Listen,
that's not what he's saying, though, Sam. You're saying that is exactly how society should be structured. You're saying that that's natural, that the men earned it.
Yeah, the men earned it. Yes.
Oh, and because the women had the same opportunity to earn it.
Yeah, they have. Well, you can claim they did not have it in the past, but they have it right now, and they're not getting.
Oh, do you know how wealth is built? Do you know how wealth is accrued?
I think a lot of people have built their wealth. That's not generational wealth or something.
Okay, well, I think you need to do a little more research. That yes, generational wealth is hugely important, and the idea that women have the same opportunity to make money today as men is also
they have it right now, and they're not as successful. I mean, I don't know why, but that's just the truth.
Well, then I guess the answer is women are necessarily inferior. But
my point, but caller, it's just so fascinating that the consequences that you are now claiming that there can be societal discrimination against men through the conscription service, through the way that men in the U.S. have to sign up for a draft, but that by the same token, you can see that there's discrimination, but by the same token, the way society is structured is completely natural. That doesn't seem to be a very coherent worldview.
Oh, no. Let me just add to that. It's totally incoherent. But aside from it being totally incoherent, you're now evading the issue of who has the power. Now you're just saying, well, men do have the power. It's just that they deserve it. And that really ultimately, hold on for a second. That ultimately is what your argument is from the very beginning. Shouldn't have taken 20 minutes to get here. What your argument is, men have the power in society because they deserve it. Right? That's your argument. And you know what? There you go.
No, you're...
Well, listen, you just said men have all the money and thus the power because they earned it. And women could, but they didn't.
People who have the money just happen to be men.
What an amazing coincidence. That's an amazing coincidence. From my perspective, that's an indication of the decades and centuries of women being the property of men. But for you, it's just a coincidence. It just so happens. Just happened.
No, it's just because you think that men have the right stuff
no.
to succeed.
Would you rather be a property, which you were not, or would you rather be drafted, Sam?
Would I rather be property or would I rather be drafted?
Yeah, well, first of all, you weren't. Would you rather be a woman who gets to look after the kids, or would you be the man in the past who gets drafted and die?
Drafted and die. Well, I would rather not die. But would you rather be the woman who is the property who can't get anybody to come and keep them from being beaten by their husband because they're her property?
Well, I don't think it ever was socially acceptable to beat your wife. I don't think you can just beat your wife.
Really? You know what I suggest you do? Start with a history book. Then see, as you're reading through history, if it was just a coincidence that men seem to have all the money and the power. Appreciate the call, though.
I mean,
just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence that the last caller is always an MRA guy or a libertarian.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah,
truly.
That was pretty impressive. I'm sorry, everyone. Again, I apologize. Unbelievable.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I
know people actually I have people who are close to me who go like, come on. You guys set that up, right? You do that. That's like the only way that happens. Like you do that on purpose.
But it was pretty fun for him to just walk right into the trap of or it wasn't even a trap. I just asked him straight up, no, it's just you think it's not a coincidence. You just think that's right. And he said, yes.
Well, that's the point. I mean, That's the thing is it would be so much easier if you just call and go, look, men are better than women.
Yeah.
Therefore, they should have more rights than women.
Then why care about politics at all if the hierarchies that exist currently are not meant to be challenged because it's just the natural order of things? That's what's so fascinating.
Well, why care? For him, politics are to retain.
To maintain it, I understand, but then it kind of undercuts the critique that the drafting thing is in any way consequential.
Right.
Or actually, I'm being too generous because he thinks those gaps should be wider.
That is what the reactionary mind is.
Yeah.
He is a hipster in his mind. To be a real rebel trying to reinstitute a system where men are dominant. That's basically it. Algorithm. Hi, everyone. Thanks for last show. Last week, my father-in-law, Michael, passed away, and while we didn't agree on many things, he was a genuine and caring man that he did everything he could to help anyone in need. He had a lot of friends, co-workers, and family that loved him dearly. My wife and I would often engage him on political issues, and your show has been so helpful for us to communicate information to him and my own parents over the years. Could we have a shofar for Mike? May he rest easy. A Square, Sam, too bad the Israelis did not and still cannot yet see the thread, what Bibi wants to do with them and what's being done to Palestinians. This cognitive dissonance seems to me like a sadly feature, not a bug of these neo-authoritarian regimes, as eventually the theocracy and control apparatus must subjugate all who do not conform to only the most marginalized groups.